The peaceful skies over Earth were suddenly pierced by a strange, unsettling message. It wasn't a signal from another country or an emergency broadcast. It came from the stars. Earth had just been contacted by the Galactic Council, a vast group of alien races from different corners of the galaxy. Their message was clear and direct, a demand that stunned every nation on Earth. We, the Galactic Council, hereby demand the immediate and unconditional surrender of your planet. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your civilization. For a moment, silence blanketed the world. It wasn't the typical threat from an enemy army or a rogue nation. This was something much worse, an ultimatum from beings that were clearly far beyond Earth's capabilities. The Galactic Council's fleets were already on their way, their ships visible in the skies above distant planets, headed toward Earth. The message echoed through televisions, radios, and digital screens worldwide. Governments scrambled to understand what was happening. Was it a hoax, a mistake? But there was no time to question. The Galactic Council wasn't asking Earth for an apology or a meeting. They were demanding surrender. The Council had made its intentions clear. Earth had no place in their galaxy unless it submitted to their rule. As the hours passed, the world's leaders convened in emergency meetings. The United Nations, the European Union, and other global alliances gathered to discuss their options. What could they do? How could they respond to such a powerful enemy? Most of the world's military leaders agreed that resistance was pointless. Earth's defenses were nothing compared to the alien ships that would soon arrive. But General Marcus Hale was not like the others. A seasoned leader with decades of experience, Hale refused to give up so easily. He had led humanity through countless battles, and he wasn't about to bow to alien overlords without a fight. "We don't surrender, we fight," he declared in a private meeting with the world's military leaders. His words were met with silence, then quiet murmurs of agreement. General Hale knew that Earth didn't have the technology to challenge the Galactic Council's fleet, but he also knew that humans had something the aliens didn't: ingenuity, determination, and a refusal to back down. Hale's decision was simple. He would do everything in his power to prepare Earth's military for the fight ahead, no matter how impossible it seemed. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Parks, a brilliant scientist and engineer, worked tirelessly in her lab to develop new weapons. Though she was just one person, she understood the stakes. The aliens would only give Earth 48 hours before their fleets arrived, and time was running out fast. As the world held its breath, General Hale and Dr. Parks stood at the forefront of Earth's resistance. They knew the odds were against them, but they weren't ready to give up yet. Humanity's response to the Galactic Council would come soon, and the question was no longer whether Earth could win, but how much they were willing to risk to survive. As the deadline approached, the world held its breath. Earth's leaders knew that they were facing something far more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. The Galactic Council wasn't just a group of alien races. They were an empire that controlled vast stretches of the galaxy, their technology far beyond anything humans could dream of. And soon, that power would be brought to Earth's doorstep. The first sign of the Council's might appeared in the form of a massive, ominous fleet. Thousands of ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen, glided silently toward Earth. They moved like shadows across the stars, their massive engines humbling even the most advanced Earth satellites. The alien ships were sleek, metallic, and gleamed with an unnatural shine. Nothing like the clunky, outdated war machines humanity had built. General Marcus Hale sat in the command center of Earth's military headquarters, his eyes fixed on the enormous screens in front of him. On them, the images of the alien fleet were displayed in stunning detail. The size of the ships, their power, and the speed with which they traveled were unlike anything humanity had ever faced. These ships could wipe out every major city on Earth in a matter of hours, General Hale said, his voice calm but filled with determination. He knew that the next 48 hours would determine the future of humanity. "We need a plan. We can't afford to wait any longer." Around him, his advisors and military officers exchanged uneasy glances. Earth's weapons, while powerful, were no match for the strength of the alien fleet. The alien ships were shielded by technology that made Earth's missiles useless. The Earth defense systems were primitive compared to what was coming. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Parks was working tirelessly in her laboratory, her mind racing with possibilities. She had been leading the team of scientists tasked with improving Earth's missile technology, but it was becoming clear that no ordinary weapon would be enough. The Galactic Council's ships were protected by powerful energy shields, and even if Earth's missiles could reach them, they might not even scratch the surface. We need something that can penetrate their shields, Dr. Parks thought, pacing back and forth in her lab. Something that can take down their technology, even if for a moment. Back at the military command center, General Hale met with his top officers. The situation was dire. The aliens had made their intentions clear, and time was running out. They couldn't just sit and wait for the enemy to strike first. It's clear they're not here for diplomacy, General Hale said. They want to take over Earth, and they're not going to stop until they do. Our only option is to strike first. The decision was made. Earth would not surrender. The world's militaries would launch a full-scale missile barrage at the alien fleet, hoping to catch them off guard and cripple their forces before they could reach Earth. But the alien ships were so advanced, the chances of success seemed almost non-existent. As the countdown to launch began, the weight of the decision hung heavily on General Hale's shoulders. He knew that no matter what happened, this would be humanity's last chance. There was no. The clock was ticking down, and every second that passed felt heavier. Humanity had 24 hours left to prepare. The Galactic Council's fleet was getting closer, their ships gliding silently through the vastness of space. Earth had no choice but to strike back, but there was no guarantee their missiles would do anything more than irritate the alien invaders. General Marcus Hale stood in front of the large command center screen, watching the countdown tick away. His mind was sharp, but even he couldn't hide the worry in his eyes. The odds were stacked against them, and time was running out. "We can't afford mistakes," he muttered to himself, his hands clasped behind his back. He had faced many challenges in his career, but this was different. This wasn't just about protecting one country or one region. This was about the survival of the entire human race. The world's leaders were in constant communication, their voices filled with tension and uncertainty. Some still wanted to negotiate with the Galactic Council, but the message had been clear: surrender or face annihilation. The Council wasn't interested in talks. They wanted control. As the minutes passed, Dr. Emily Parks and her team of scientists worked tirelessly in a high-tech lab, trying to make their missiles capable of breaking through the alien shields. Dr. Parks knew that Earth's missiles weren't strong enough. They needed something more advanced, something that could penetrate the enemy's defenses. "We can do this," she said, her voice firm despite the rising pressure. She wasn't one to back down from a challenge. Using a combination of human ingenuity and some data from past alien encounters, Dr. Parks and her team developed a new kind of missile, one that could release a concentrated burst of energy, aimed directly at the heart of the alien ship's shields. But it was still experimental, and there was no guarantee it would work. "We have no choice but to try," Dr. Parks thought. She had worked day and night on this project, hoping against hope that it would make a difference. Back at the military base, General Hale addressed the commanders who were preparing Earth's forces. He knew there was no turning back now. The missile barrage was ready to launch, but with the alien fleet so close, there wasn't much time left to wait. "We strike at dawn," Hale said, his voice steady. "We hit them hard and fast, with everything we've got. Our best shot is to catch them off guard." The tension in the room was thick. Everyone knew that this would be a fight for survival. Earth wasn't just defending its borders, it was defending its existence. The military personnel worked around the clock, coordinating the launch of every missile, every defense system. This was it. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. As the countdown reached the final hours, the air was thick with anticipation. Earth's response was about to come. General Hale could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was the only chance Earth had, and it had to work. Dr. Parks stood in her lab, looking at the final missile design. She had done everything she could to help, but now, all they could do was hope that their hard work would make a difference. With just minutes left, the countdown ended. The world held its breath as the first missiles were launched. The moment had arrived. Earth's defenses were in place, the missiles primed and ready for launch. General Marcus Hale stood at the heart of the command center, his eyes focused on the massive screen in front of him. The countdown had ended, and now there was no turning back. The first strike would determine everything. "We launch now," Hale ordered, his voice calm but resolute. His heart raced as he gave the command, knowing that once the missiles were in the air, the world would be at war. Across the globe, military leaders and commanders prepared for the same moment. Hundreds of missiles, each loaded with a new experimental warhead, were fired toward the incoming fleet of the Galactic Council. The entire world held its breath as the missiles streaked into the sky, their engines roaring like thunder. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, Earth's missile barrage collided with the alien fleet. The sky above Earth seemed to light up as the missiles hit their targets, one by one. The first wave of explosions rocked the space above Earth, sending ripples through the alien formations. The missiles pierced through the vacuum of space, breaking the silence that had stretched across the universe for so long. The result was almost immediate. The Galactic Council's ships, expecting little more than a futile attempt at defense, were caught off guard. Several of the smaller alien ships exploded in bright bursts of light as the missiles struck, their energy shields buckling under the force of Earth's newly enhanced weapons. Earth had dealt the first blow. But the victory was short-lived. A second later, the remaining alien ships retaliated with terrifying speed. Their weapons unleashed a devastating storm of energy that shot toward Earth, dwarfing the human missiles in power. Entire cities on Earth's surface were obliterated in a flash, leaving craters where bustling metropolises had once stood. General Hale's expression tightened as he watched the destruction unfold on the screen. The alien ships were proving to be far more dangerous than humanity had anticipated. They were resilient, and they responded with a fury that shook Earth to its core. The missile barrage had done its job. Earth had managed to strike first, and a few ships had been destroyed. But the damage to the planet was massive. The alien ships were still intact, their shields repairing faster than humanity's missiles could penetrate. Dr. Emily Parks, back in her lab, watched the reports come in. Her heart sank as she saw the damage to Earth's cities. But she wasn't ready to give up. The missile had worked. It had breached their shields. That was the first step, but the war was far from over. "We have to keep going," Dr. Parks muttered to herself, her fingers moving over the controls as she worked with the team to calculate their next move. "We need to find a way to hit them harder. We've only just begun." On the battlefield, General Hale knew this was only the start. His mind raced as he issued orders to launch the next wave of missiles. Humanity wasn't giving up. Not yet. They had struck first, and that gave them hope. But there was still much more to do if they were to stand a chance. The battle between Earth and the Galactic Council raged on, and humanity's initial victory seemed more like a distant dream with each passing hour. Earth had struck first, but the alien fleet had retaliated with brutal force. Cities lay in ruins, and many of Earth's best missiles had been wiped out before they even reached their targets. General Marcus Hale paced back and forth in the command center, staring at the damage reports coming in from all over the globe. The situation was growing worse by the minute. The enemy's ships were powerful, and they had already begun to overrun Earth's defenses. The first wave of Earth's missiles had hit a few ships, but now the Council's fleet was closing in fast, and Earth's forces were running low on ammunition. "We need more firepower," General Hale muttered to himself. "If we don't come up with something soon, we're finished." Just as Hale was about to issue another order to launch the remaining missiles, an unexpected transmission came through. It was a strange signal, different from the regular Galactic Council communications. The message was brief, almost cryptic. "We can help, but you must act quickly." The command center erupted in confusion. No one knew who had sent the message or what it meant. General Hale's instincts told him it wasn't from the Galactic Council. Whoever it was, they weren't asking for anything in return, just that humanity act fast. Within moments, the source of the message revealed itself. A fleet of unknown ships appeared on Earth's radar, moving quickly toward the Galactic Council's ships. These new vessels were sleek and advanced, unlike anything Earth had ever seen. They didn't match the alien ships of the Council at all. A voice crackled over the radio, coming from one of the mysterious ships. "We are the Valari. We have been oppressed by the Galactic Council for centuries. We are offering our help to humanity." The room fell silent as General Hale absorbed the words. The Valari? Who were they? How had they found Earth? And why were they offering assistance now? Hale had never heard of them before, but the desperation of the situation made him cautious yet hopeful. "We have no time for questions," the Valari voice continued. "We are sending you the technology to enhance your weapons. You must use them against the Council's fleet. You are not alone in this fight." At the same time, Dr. Emily Parks received similar messages from the Valari fleet. Their ships transmitted blueprints and schematics for advanced weaponry, much more powerful than Earth's current designs. Dr. Parks couldn't believe her eyes. This alien technology was beyond anything humanity had ever created. It could turn the tide of the war. In the command center, Hale didn't hesitate. "We accept your help. We need everything you've got." With no time to waste, the Valari ships began sending energy-based weapons to Earth's military forces. It wasn't long before the first wave of new missiles was loaded onto launchers. Earth's engineers worked tirelessly, adapting the advanced Valari technology into their existing systems. General Hale watched as the new missiles were armed and ready. A wave of determination swept over him. Humanity wasn't finished yet. They had a new ally, and now Earth had a chance to turn the war around. As the final countdown began for the next missile launch, General Hale issued his command: "Launch everything we have." This time, we hit them hard. With that, humanity's second chance had arrived. The new weapons were their best hope, and with the Valari's help, Earth would strike back with everything it had. The war had taken a new turn. With the help of the Valari, Earth's forces had gained access to technology that could change everything. General Marcus Hale stood in the command center, watching the new missiles being loaded into launchers. They were different from anything Earth had ever seen, sleek, powerful, and designed to pierce the Galactic Council's nearly impenetrable shields. "Do we have a clear target?" General Hale asked, his voice steady despite the tension that weighed heavily in the room. "Yes, sir," replied Commander Thomas. "The first fleet of Council ships is only 40 minutes away. They're closing in on the planet." Hale nodded. The battle had reached a critical point. Earth's defenses had been overwhelmed, cities were destroyed, and the Council's ships were relentless. This would be their final chance. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Parks and her team worked around the clock, integrating the Valari technology into Earth's missile systems. The blueprints they had received were complex, but Dr. Parks was determined. She knew the fate of humanity rested on these weapons. The new missile designs were far more advanced than anything Earth scientists had developed before. These weapons could deliver an intense, concentrated energy burst that would cut through the alien ship's defenses. The Valari engineers had included an energy-absorbing core that could disrupt the alien shields for a few crucial seconds. That was all Earth needed, just enough time to land a powerful strike. If these new missiles hit their target, they would create a hole in the alien fleet's armor, something humanity's previous weapons couldn't do. As the last missile was completed, Dr. Parks took a deep breath. She didn't know if the technology would work, but it was their best shot. The Valari had put their trust in Earth, and now it was time to return the favor. The countdown to launch began. Across the world, every missile silo, every military base, every launch site was ready. The missiles, loaded with new Valari technology, stood poised, waiting for the signal. "General Hale, we're ready," Commander Thomas said. "We've got the missiles in position, and everything's set to go." "Do it," Hale ordered, his voice calm but filled with the weight of the moment. "We can't wait any longer." With that command, the world watched as Earth's new weapon systems activated. A massive barrage of missiles shot into the sky, their engines burning brightly. They streaked toward the alien fleet, each one carrying the hopes of humanity. The air seemed to hum with anticipation. As the missiles neared their targets, the first wave of Council ships tried to activate their shields. But Earth's new missiles were designed to exploit the weakness in those shields. The energy cores embedded in each missile fired, releasing a burst of power that temporarily overloaded the shields. The explosion that followed was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. One of the larger Council ships exploded in a brilliant flash, its massive frame disintegrating in space. More ships were hit, their shields faltering under the barrage. For the first time in the war, Earth had the upper hand. "We're breaking through," Commander Thomas shouted, eyes wide in disbelief. "We're actually doing it." Dr. Parks watched the data flood in. The missiles were working. The energy burst had successfully pierced the alien shields, and the explosions were devastating their fleet. It wasn't just a victory, it was a turning point. General Hale felt a rush of hope as he watched the alien fleet falter. This was their moment. With the Valari's technology and Earth's determination, humanity had proven they could fight back. "This isn't over," Hale said, his voice filled with resolve. "But we've given them something to think about." The first victory had given humanity a glimmer of hope, but it wasn't enough to win the war. The alien fleet, though shaken, quickly regrouped. The Galactic Council was not a foe that would surrender easily. Their ships were vast and powerful, and they were angry. They had underestimated Earth's resilience, but now they were prepared to crush the rebellion once and for all. General Marcus Hale stood in the command center, staring at the large screen in front of him. The once bright and hopeful display showing Earth's missile hits had now turned dark. The alien fleet was rearming and preparing for retaliation. "They've adapted too quickly," Hale said, frustration evident in his voice. "They've figured out how to repair their shields faster. We can't keep up." The screen flickered and shifted, showing the alien fleet once again. This time, they were not just coming to attack, they were coming to annihilate. Huge energy cannons began powering up, glowing with a menacing light. These weapons were unlike anything Earth had seen before. They could obliterate entire cities with a single shot. "We have to stop them before they fire," Hale said. "We need to launch again, but we don't have much time." Dr. Emily Parks, back in her lab, was working furiously. The Valari had given Earth the technology to fight back, but even their advanced weaponry wasn't enough to stop the Council's next move. She watched the incoming data, trying to come up with a solution. Her hands flew over the controls, typing faster than she had ever typed before. The alien superweapons were too powerful to ignore. Come on, Dr. Parks muttered to herself, praying for an idea. There had to be a way to disrupt the Council's new weapons before they could fire. Meanwhile, Earth's military was preparing for a desperate final stand. General Hale knew the situation was growing dire. Cities had been destroyed, and the alien fleet was now targeting Earth's most populated areas. If Earth didn't strike back quickly, there wouldn't be a planet left to defend. "This is it, people," Hale said, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of what was to come. "We need to act fast, or we lose everything." Earth's remaining missiles were ready for launch. The new weapons had worked before, but now, the Council had figured out how to counteract them. They were stronger, faster, and more dangerous than ever. And yet, Humanity still had something the Council didn't: unpredictability. With one final command, Hale gave the order to fire. Earth's remaining missiles shot into the sky, but this time they were different. They weren't aimed just at the alien ships, they were aimed at their energy cannons. The missiles were designed to disable the alien weapons before they could fire. But the Galactic Council had anticipated this. Their countermeasures were already in place, and Earth's missiles were intercepted with deadly precision. The sky lit up with explosions as Earth's weapons were destroyed mid-flight. "This isn't over," Hale said quietly, watching the carnage unfold. But there was a sense of finality in his voice. "We've done all we can." The alien fleet powered up their superweapons once again, and Earth's defenses were nearly gone. It seemed as though humanity was about to face its end. The Galactic Council was closing in on victory, and General Hale's team could only watch as the inevitable approached. But even as the Council's fleet neared Earth's atmosphere, there was a flicker of hope. It was faint, but it was there. Humanity wasn't done yet. The alien fleet loomed above Earth, its massive ships darkening the sky. The superweapons on the Council's ships were now fully charged, and Earth's defenses were nearly gone. The last few missiles had been destroyed mid-flight, leaving humanity with nothing left but a few scattered military bases and the hope that they could somehow pull off a miracle. General Marcus Hale stood in the command center, his face tense. The odds of survival were now slim. The alien fleet was about to unleash its full force, and Earth's cities were moments away from being wiped out. "Are we ready?" Hale asked, though he knew the answer. The last of Earth's defenses had been put in place, but they were far from enough to stop the alien weapons from firing. "Sir," Commander Thomas replied, his voice quiet, "the remaining missiles are loaded, but the enemy is too strong. They'll take us down before we can launch them." For a moment, there was only silence. The world's leaders were waiting, hoping, but there was nothing left to do. Earth had fought hard, but the Galactic Council had proved to be too powerful. Then something unexpected happened. Without warning, the Valari fleet appeared in the sky above Earth, their ships descending from the dark expanse of space. They had kept their promise. The Valari had arrived just in time to help humanity, but now they were facing the full force of the Council's wrath. Their ships were fast and agile, but they were still no match for the alien superweapons. "General Hale," a voice crackled through the communication system. It was the Valari commander. "We are with you. We'll buy you time to launch your final missiles. Do not waste this chance." "Understood," Hale replied, his voice steady despite the pressure mounting around him. "We'll do what we can." The Valari fleet moved quickly, engaging the alien ships in a fierce battle. Their energy weapons clashed with the Council's shields, but the alien fleet retaliated with terrifying force. Explosions lit up the sky as the Valari ships were struck, one after another. But they fought on, determined to protect Earth for as long as they could. Back at Earth's launch sites, Dr. Emily Parks was overseeing the final preparations for the last missile barrage. The Valari's appearance had given them a slim chance of survival, but it wouldn't last long. The enemy was relentless, and Earth's time was running out. "We can't wait any longer," Dr. Parks said to the engineers around her. "We fire now. If this doesn't work, we'll have nothing left." As the Valari fleet clashed with the Council's ships, General Hale gave the order, "Launch everything we have." The final wave of missiles shot into the air, faster and more powerful than any before. With the Valari fighting off the Council's forces, the missiles had a clear path. The world held its breath as the warhead soared toward the enemy fleet. For a few tense moments, it seemed like nothing would happen. Then the first missile struck. The alien ship it hit shuddered as its shields weakened, and then, with a loud explosion, the ship disintegrated. One by one, the missiles hit their targets, and the alien fleet began to falter. "We're winning," Commander Thomas whispered in disbelief. "It's working." But the battle wasn't over yet. The alien fleet was still powerful, and the Valeri ships were being destroyed. It was a fragile victory, a brief moment of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. But that moment, those precious few seconds, were enough. The Council's ships began retreating, their weapons no longer able to overcome the combined force of Earth and the Valeri. It was a small victory, but it was enough to turn the tide of the war. General Hale watched as the alien fleet disappeared into the distance, their superweapons no longer a threat. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he allowed himself to exhale. The battle was far from over, but for now, humanity had won. The Galactic Council had underestimated Earth, and now, the whole galaxy would know that humanity could fight back. The alien fleet had retreated, but the silence that followed was anything but peaceful. Earth's battered cities lay in ruins, and the Valeri ships, though victorious, had paid a heavy price. Many of their fleet had been destroyed in the final battle. The once shining hope of a new ally was now dimmed, and there was no denying the cost of victory. General Marcus Hale stood on the balcony of the command center, looking out at the wreckage. The alien ships that had once loomed so ominously over Earth were now nothing more than smoldering debris, floating in space. The sky, once bright with explosions and flashes of light, was now eerily quiet. "We've won," Hale said softly to Commander Thomas, who stood beside him. "But at what cost?" Thomas didn't answer right away. His gaze was fixed on the distant horizon, where the remnants of the Valeri fleet were retreating. "We've lost so much," he said finally, his voice heavy with the weight of their shared losses. "The cities, the lives, the ships. It wasn't just Earth that fought," Hale replied, turning his eyes toward the Valeri ships. "We couldn't have done this without them. They gave us everything." The Valeri had come through, risking their lives and fleets to help Earth in the final moments. Their ships had fought bravely, but even with their advanced technology, they couldn't hold off the Council's superior firepower forever. Yet, their intervention had made all the difference. Back in the lab, Dr. Emily Parks was reviewing the data, her mind racing. The new missiles had been the key to breaking the alien fleet's defenses, but even that hadn't been enough without the Valeri's timely assistance. They had turned the tide, but Earth's survival wasn't guaranteed. There were still too many questions, too many unknowns. "We've done what we can," she whispered to herself. "But what now?" The war might be over, but humanity was left in shambles. Earth's cities were destroyed, its military forces decimated. The people were tired, and the planet was scared, both physically and emotionally. There would be no easy rebuilding, no quick recovery. General Hale knew that the real challenge was just beginning. Earth had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Council was still out there, and while they had retreated for now, it was only a matter of time before they regrouped and came back stronger. Earth couldn't afford to be complacent. They had to rebuild, to prepare for the next phase of the fight. "We've bought ourselves some time," Hale said, his voice determined. "But we can't stop now. We'll rebuild, and we'll be ready for whatever comes next." The room fell silent as his words settled in. Everyone knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. Earth had survived the first wave, but they had to stay vigilant. The threat was never truly gone, and humanity had to be ready to face it again, even if it meant making the ultimate sacrifice. The days after the battle were a blur of recovery and reflection. The once bustling cities that had been destroyed were now silent, their ruins a reminder of the cost of survival. Earth's population was grieving, but there was also a deep sense of gratitude. Despite everything, humanity had managed to survive. The threat from the Galactic Council had been pushed back. For now, General Marcus Hale stood in front of a large screen, watching as the final reports came in. The Valeri fleet had helped humanity win the battle, but many of their ships had been lost in the process. Yet, despite the cost, Earth had come out on top. The alien invaders had retreated, their forces scattered and diminished. It was a fragile victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. "We've made it through," Hale muttered to himself, his eyes scanning the data. But what now? The question hung in the air, unanswered. The Galactic Council may have retreated, but Earth knew that this wasn't the end. Their enemies had vast resources, and the Council would likely return, more prepared than ever. Earth had been lucky this time, but luck couldn't be counted on forever. Dr. Emily Parks stood at a nearby workstation, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. She was reviewing the data from the final missile strikes. The new weapons had worked, just barely, but Earth's technological advantage was fleeting, and the Valari were no longer in a position to assist. "Do you think they'll come back?" Dr. Parks asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Hale turned to face her. "They will. The Council won't just forget about us. But we've learned something important. Humans are not as weak as they think. We've shown them that we can fight back, and that changes everything." As the days passed, Earth's leaders met in secret, discussing what needed to be done to rebuild and prepare for what was to come. The planet was battered, its defenses weakened, but humanity's spirit was unbroken. They had survived the impossible, and now they had to prepare for the future. One of the most important decisions made in those days was to begin the formation of a united Earth government. The world had been divided for so long, but the events of the past weeks had shown that only by working together could humanity hope to stand against the galaxy's more powerful forces. "We have to put aside our differences," General Hale said during a global summit. "We need to be one united force if we're going to survive. And this," he gestured to the assembly of leaders, "this is the beginning of that." Dr. Parks, sitting in the audience, couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. She had seen the devastation, the despair, and the uncertainty, but she had also seen the courage, the innovation, and the determination that had kept humanity going. They had faced the impossible, and they had come out the other side stronger. Earth had paid a heavy price for its survival, but now it was time to move forward. The Galactic Council might return, but humanity was no longer the easy target it once was. The message had been sent loud and clear. Earth would not go down without a fight. As General Hale looked out at the leaders from around the world, he felt a renewed sense of hope. The battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, and now they would defend it with everything they had.